Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Ram. We'll come back to this century with our next chat. Uh, but before we set up the speaker online and again trying to do some technology that's probably from the next century, I would request everybody to please scan the QR codes on your table. Give us some feedback. We want to do better next time, and do explore some of our future events. So could you please spend a minute there? So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. While you continue to do that, let me welcome my friend Nikhil Gokhale, Head of Research and Digital Products at IBS Intelligence, for the next chat.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ojas. As Ram has been saying, this is the panel that is standing between you and lunch. So we'll see how it goes, whether we stretch it too much or we make it interesting so much that you don't feel or don't remember that you're hungry. But we'll see. On the panel today, I'm pleased to welcome Rizwan Shaikh. He is a director at Expleo. He has more than 25 years of experience. Literally, he has seen it all, I would say. He's seen emerging technologies grow, mature, sometimes become obsolete, sometimes become mainstream. We'll see what he has to say about cloud. He's worked across multiple geographies, and he is responsible for the revenues, services, and the relations that Expleo has across Middle East and Asia. Welcome. I also have Sampath Srinivasan. He has, again, more than 25 years experience, who's going to join virtually. If we could have a Sampath connect. Hello, Sampath. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear. You were speaking to a room full of very enthusiastic bankers who are very keen to hear your thoughts, about 50 of us here. Sampath, he has an enviable track record of successfully completing multiple complex technology transformations, and may I add, on schedule and within budget. During his tenure at Emirates NBD, he was responsible for spearheading the group's digitization program, and very interestingly, at First Abu Dhabi Bank, he's the group chief technology officer. And just about yesterday, we had an announcement that First Abu Dhabi Bank has selected IBM for its cloud journey ahead. So, congratulations, Sampath, on that. Let me try and start with the story, about this. This is a story that goes about 10 or 15 years ago, where, in a conversation with, very senior leadership at a bank, talking about cloud, and the senior leadership, non-technology, if I may add, saying that, okay, if the data is not here, where is it? And we said, yeah, it's in the cloud. And so where exactly is it? And out of habit, I simply said that, okay, it's out somewhere there. And the next question was, what happens on a nice sunny day like you have here? Will we lose access to our data? Right? And trust me, this is not a made-up story. It's actually happened. Luckily, we are past that day and age where we have to answer such questions. But if I may start with you, Rizwan, let's talk about the traditional benefits of cloud first, because they're still relevant. They're still driving the cloud adoption. So, what would you say that the traditional benefits of cloud, which are still relevant and up and out there when you have your conversations?
Thanks. So thanks so much, Nikhil, for having me. Thank you, Siddhar. So traditional benefits, yes. I think before that, I just want to take a step back, because cloud as a concept, it was established somewhere in the 1960s. where they created something called ARPANET or ARCANET, I forget the name, but then there was kind of an intranet kind of an environment where people could store information and share information. And then subsequently in the 1990s, 2000, that's when the cloud started picking steam and which started moving outside the office. And today your cloud is actually basically somewhere on the WWW, like World Wide Web, right? And just imagine if aliens invade Earth, then what will become of WWW? It becomes an intranet, and because you will have something like space, World Wide Web, something like that. So as WWW.
The word W will have to go away, like
so there are a lot of possibilities in cloud. So obviously the advantages are very clear. The advantages are like scalability, they can scale up very fast. Collaboration is amazing because it's standardized. Any fintech guys, any banks can actually collaborate directly with the cloud. It's highly reliable, highly available. The cloud works 24/7, right? Yes, as Ahmed had put it earlier, if the internet is not there, then what? Yeah, so obviously that's a question mark. Another traditional advantage that we see today is like everybody's trying to contribute to the carbon utilization, right? So if it's in cloud, then you are actually saving that in your organization, so which is pretty good advantage, or which is a clear advantage right now. You don't need to worry about technology. Technology is taken care by the cloud service provider straight away, because otherwise the bank has to refresh every 3 years, now maybe 2 years. So these are clear-cut advantages of a cloud as such, as I see it. Like, these are very relevant today. The last advantage, a lot of you may agree or disagree, is the cost part of it. Cloud is simple, easy to use, and cheaper. But then, yeah, what Chetan had put it in the morning, CapEx to OpEx model, right? And I think there are a lot of customers who feel otherwise also, because they feel that the recurring revenue is more than what I would spend on an on-prem environment. So I think that's the major advantages, and of course security is taken very nicely by the cloud service providers as such. So it's completely secure environment altogether.
Perfect. I think you touched upon the emerging benefits, traditional benefits. Let me, cross over to you, Sampath. Similar question. What are the traditional and the emerging benefits? And if it were, for you to rate them, what would you say are the top 3 that you would, highlight in a conversation? And, in terms of just, how are they important for you from the First Abu Dhabi Bank perspective as well?
Hi, thanks, Nikhil. Pleasure to be part of this panel, and good afternoon to everyone joining virtually from here. I think, Nikhil, we started our cloud journey almost 3 years back. I think, as you heard from the IBM video which we got published. There are several benefits, I think, moving to a cloud, and whether moving to a cloud is going to be beneficial or not beneficial, I think that's an historical question now. It's going to be that how we are going to leverage the cloud now and how you are going to derive the benefits of the cloud. I mean, our approach has been basically, we have turned our strategy in terms of more looking at what business value the cloud is going to bring in, rather than looking only from a technology aspect of it, right? And, First Abu Dhabi Bank, 3 years back, we are the first bank in the region to bring AWS Outpost into the region. We are the first AWS Outpost, which is more like a, private cloud in your data center, almost 3 years back. And, we are refreshing that technology again now. And we work with a lot of hyperscalers, we have a multi-cloud strategy, and we work with all the hyperscalers in terms of cloud adoption. We have a very structured guideline and principles in terms of how do we choose which hyperscaler and what sort of service. I mean, if we talk about, 3 significant benefits on cloud, is basically we are talking about, scalability, speed to market, and then reliability, right? So when we talk about cloud, I think how agile it is, depending on the type of capability that we want to embrace on the cloud, either we are going on a IaaS or PaaS or SaaS model. Because generally, in order to understand and learn how do we, experience the usage of cloud, I think, organizations generally start with the YaaS model, get used to it, and then move into PaaS and then into SaaS model. And today, if you see, most of the service offerings and applications are coming only in SaaS model. So you need to be in a position to understand how do you leverage the SaaS model and how do you leverage the capabilities of the SaaS model. Of course, there are regulatory aspects which one need to take into account while you are embracing any application as SaaS model. But we have seen, from a scalability perspective, it's been very, very beneficial for us. And now we have started our cloud journey, accelerate our cloud journey sometime beginning of last year. And we are actively looking at moving several workloads into the cloud. We work with AWS, we work with Azure, and also we work with G42, which is National Cloud of UAE. And what we are continuously doing is, as I said at the beginning, that it's not a technology aspect of cloud. We are educating the executive management in terms of what are the benefits of moving to cloud, what are the principles of choosing a multi-cloud strategy, and which are the use cases that the business really will benefit from leveraging the services on the cloud. So there are several areas which we are focusing on. Of course, our journey is going to be for the next 3 to 5 years. We are probably in the very, very early stages of our journey, but we have a clear roadmap in terms of how we want to embrace cloud and how we want to really leverage the usage of cloud.
If I can just keep that question with you, Sampath. You mentioned speed to market. Can you throw some light on that particular aspect that you spoke about?
Speed to market is basically when you want to move into digital channels, and then we want to start offering more sort of your services and features to the customer through digital channels. And when you're moving away from traditional architecture of middleware, back end, front end, all of them, move into cloud native applications, because today the scalability is possible only through the cloud native applications. We want to offer more and more services through your API platform and microservices based functionalities, right? So when you want to move into container-based, microservices-based architecture, and you want to decouple the architecture from your backend, I think cloud is the best way in order to leverage that, right? Because there are many services which they're in the cloud, which you can easily embrace. You don't need to develop them in-house. You just need to connect to them, yeah? And when you start connecting to them, those services are automatically available. I mean, just to give an example, as somebody touched upon security, from identity management, from authentication, and all of them, you don't need to look at those capabilities in-house in order to see how do I have an identity access management, how do I need a security, how do you need connect between microservices, how do I make sure that my microservice is replicated across different infrastructures. So all these aspects are taken care from the cloud. And when these services are readily available, then obviously the time to market in terms of new product offerings for business becomes much more faster. And second, how do we scale, right? Scalability from a volume perspective and seasonal search perspective, these are all easily taken care in a cloud environment. I mean, if you go, I'll touch upon some of the aspects. Is generally, traditionally, on an on-prem, what we need to do is you size your volume according to the peak. So you buy a huge sort of infrastructure and probably use it only once in a moment when the peak volume happens. Otherwise, it just sits there with very less value, right? So these sort of aspects are very clearly taken on the cloud, and I don't need to worry about it, right? My scalability is just a matter of seconds. So that's why speed to market, especially when we are offering digital offerings to customers and you're moving more and more services, which is self-service based to customer, I think cloud is the best way in order to increase and accelerate the digital adoption.
Rizwan, I do see you nodding your head along, and anything to that you would want to add there?
No, I think Sampath has absolutely touched upon the points that I think is actually seeing it right now, right? Because it's in practice right now. So time to market actually differs from customer to customer. But having said that, he's absolutely right. There are ready elements like APIs that can be consumed, and you can actually launch a service very fast. Scalability, you can do both horizontal, vertical scaling. Otherwise, he would have to take budget approvals and actually go and it's a 3-month cycle for getting the hardware delivered, and then actually you scaled up. But cloud scales up very fast within seconds. So very distinct advantages.
If I again, if I may, push that question a little further. So, do you think that when it comes to, the open banking, which is the topic that we spoke about extensively, right? Is cloud, almost like a requirement when it comes to open banking, without which, you just cannot play in this market?
So it's not really a requirement, but it's like this, you go to a buffet, the food is there, you just eat. So that's your cloud, right? If the services, the APIs are there, everybody can consume it. And so it makes it easier, it makes it faster, it makes it simpler. And so that's the concept, like, the API architecture and open banking, if you work them together, anybody can actually create a service portfolio by consuming those pieces together and actually go to the customers. And this is closer to a customer, not away from them. So I think that's the advantage clearly.
And talking about the the availability and the ease of doing implementing technology across across banks, and maybe this is probably a question maybe both of you can take a shot at, in terms of cloud is literally democratizing the availability of solutions to everyone, not just to large banks, but you're talking about mid-sized banks, small banks, and also to fintechs, right? So from that perspective, I think, again, we spoke about collaboration in the morning. So where do you see the whole collaboration between fintechs and banks driven by the cloud? How do you see that evolving over time? And do you also see that as something that banks will have to work that much harder to be able to showcase the unique value proposition that they can offer to customers? Maybe Rizwan, you could go first, and then Sampath, you could take.
Okay, I thought Sampath would take the lead there. So okay, so
no, I think.
Go ahead,
Please go ahead, Sampath.
I think, Nikhil, one of the things which the banks need to recognize is that they need to be part of the ecosystem now. There's no more that banks can do things on their own and then start building all the services on their own. We need to be open enough to connect to fintechs and partners, because many of the capabilities which are readily available, which the fintechs are providing, the environment, the architecture and the ecosystem of the bank should be open enough in order to embrace this, partnerships and fintechs. And especially when you're on the cloud, where you start, providing your digital offerings, some of the things which you want to, for example, if you want to, embed a loyalty within your mobile banking platform, or you want to embed a personal finance through your mobile banking platform, and there are specialist fintechs who are offering these capabilities. And your architecture and the ecosystem should be open enough in order to connect to those partners quickly, because again, when it comes to type to market, how open is the architecture and secured? Of course, security is one of the key aspects of it. How open and secure your architecture so that you can quickly hook onto a fintech and start providing those services in your digital channels, right? That is a key aspect, and that's how I think when you're moving into a cloud, the architecture and the well-architected framework is very critical, because one of the things which needs to be taken care in a cloud is, when you're setting up the cloud architecture, you need to make sure that you are setting up in a way that it's open and secure. Because sometimes in order to rectify your architecture gaps in cloud, it's very expensive and it's painful. So from the beginning, you need to make sure that you have very well thought out architecture framework in the cloud, which is open to connect to fintechs and partners and all. At the same time, it gives a very secure sort of integration and interoperability within the ecosystem.
Very interesting.
So I think Sampath has said it very clearly. I mean, you can't beat them, you join them, right? That's the statement. And when you join them, of course, both of you can compete, but you're actually complementing each other in the service, right? Fintech has the technology, and the bank has the reach. You combine these two together, you have a formidable kind of an option that you go to the market with. So that's the whole crux of it. Like, it's a collaborative world, and you have to complement each other's service to kind of join hands and deliver one particular service offering on many, as Sampath was citing, right? And they're pretty pertinent examples, like introducing a loyalty to a mobile network or whatever. So,
well said. I think I think you summed it in that sense, Sampath, when you said banks have to be a part of the ecosystem now, right? It cannot be on their own any longer, and that's the key. Moving into the actual implementations, focusing a little about what kind of challenges you face when you implement cloud. So I'm going to ask Sampath. So when it comes to the public cloud, private cloud, a hybrid cloud, and which ones should you be choosing, which ones you should be choosing for which functions should go first. I can see you smiling because I almost feel that you almost have answered this question sometime recently, and you are being through that journey right now.
Yeah, I think we will continue to be in hybrid mode. I don't think we will completely switch into a private cloud or a public cloud. The hybrid mode will continue. I think why the hybrid mode will continue, because each and every country we are going through this cycle of data regulations and data privacy. Many of the countries are now insisting that your customer PI data should reside within the controlled environment, especially when you're dealing with public organizations and governmental entities. Data security and a lot of regulations in order to maintain the data. So I think we will go through both public and private cloud adoption. And the key challenge, I think, Nikhil, what we have faced and what many organizations have faced while transitioning into cloud is, one I already touched upon, that you should have a well thought out architected framework for which you need to have the right skills and talent, right? One of the challenges in the region is basically to acquire and get the right skill and talent. Who can architect while partners are there to help. I think it's still a learning curve as organizations, attracting the talent and to make sure that the transition to cloud architecture is properly thought out is a challenge. So one is we need to have a proper architecture. And second is basically for me, I think more or less cloud is like a one-way traffic, right? You move from on-prem into cloud, but it's very painful. You want to bring it back, which means that you should have a clear strategy of what sort of workloads you want to move into cloud, and they are going to sustain there for the foreseeable future, right? If you move one workload into cloud and after a year or 2 months later realize that you need to bring it back for whatever reasons which probably might be beyond our control or something, it's a very painful process. So I think it needs to be clearly thought out in terms of what sort of workloads that will move into the cloud and how it is going to be sustainable for a long period of time. That's second. Third is, I think, as many banks in this region or in this cloud journey, probably in the very early stages, because it started probably 2 years back. The initial focus has been more towards how do I save cost by moving to cloud. I think which is a gross mistake which everybody is looking at. Cloud migration is not a cost save strategy. It's one of the wrong things. I think I heard in the beginning that probably the morning discussion happened between capex and opex distribution, right? Many organizations fail to basically do a forecast on how it's going to be your cloud spend as you move forward and start putting more and more workloads into the cloud. So you need to have a really good FinOps mechanism in order to look at, especially when you're following a multi-cloud strategy, you need to have very good control of your usage. Otherwise, I think the cloud usage will literally draw you in, and you might be finding it challenging to even understand where the increase in cost is happening. So that visibility and transparency in terms of how the cloud is being used and how efficiently you are using the cloud. Because many times, organization what they do is they don't even know that there are capabilities in the cloud where you can switch off your workload for a certain period of time and have cost benefit. Sometimes, people here, I can still experience that, some of the workloads, even though you can have cost benefit of switching off the workload, it just keeps continuing. The main benefit of cloud is the pay as you get, how you get cost benefit, right? That is one thing needs to be considered. And second, when you are explaining your strategy to the exco or the board, I feel that if you go and position it as a cost-saving approach, I think that's a complete wrong mistake. It should be business logic driven. It should be reliability, scalability, and also the time to market we just discussed before, right? And if you don't position it like this, then you're going to be questioned on why my cost is one increasing, whereas this has been positioned as a cost-save strategy. I think these are challenges. I think not talking summarize. One is talent. Second is to have a strategy of long-term visibility, and third, not position as just cost saving mechanism.
Very, very well said. And I think, we speak about scalability and we speak about ramp up so many times. We don't talk enough about the ramp down possibilities, taking the workloads off the cloud whenever not needed. I think that is something that is a very important and an interesting takeaway that all of us should be, keeping in top of our minds. Rizwan, you mentioned that one of the benefits of cloud is security. Can you please elaborate as to, who owns security when it comes to cloud? Who is going to be something wrong happens, who is liable? And how do we fix that liability?
So in my opinion, the security aspect when it comes to cloud is three-party, right? One is obviously the cloud service provider, who's the people running the infrastructure, who are the people guaranteeing your SLAs, they are the people who are ensuring your systems up and running, working 24/7. So they're definitely the first party there. The second party here is obviously the customer itself, the bank, who's actually deploying it on our cloud, because if you look at the on-prem environment, it's your departments who are looking after the security aspect. It could be IT, it could be CISO, it could be security, InfoSec, or all the other concerned departments who used to look after security. But at the same time, when you move certain things to cloud, it's a joint responsibility along with the cloud service provider. Now, the third element in this is the customer itself. It's also the responsibility of the customer not to share sensitive information outside of what they are supposed to do, right? So it is, in certain way, it's their onus also to kind of be informed and also kind of worry about the security aspect.
Very, very interesting. You're pushing something to all of us here in the room, making sure that, you should not be sharing. I think...
Yeah, you'll not share a Google password, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, now that we know that from the earlier discussion, that, Apple is going to click pictures of our mood every 5 seconds. So all the more reason why we should be very careful about security as customers, not just as as banks and cloud service providers. But clearly, I can see that the amount of investment, the amount of awareness that we have about security is improving even as we speak, and I think that is one of the most important things. Sampath, if I may ask you, many regulations in the US and Europe literally have the CISOs sign off almost like personal guarantees about the security of the systems. Does this give sleepless nights when it comes to cloud? When you
Absolutely.
have... Yeah, please.
Absolutely. I think even though we all understand that the cloud is more secured and in terms of reliability is more there, it's important that as an organization we need to do independent validation of those securities and get certified by our CISO organization. So at FA we have went through a very thorough structured approach of validating the security protocols and make sure that at any point in time, the data cannot be retrieved by even by any of the authorities, even some of the hyperscalers which we are dealing with, they are out of the country based providers, but we make sure that the security aspect is completely taken care, and the keys are properly maintained, and none of the keys are being retrieved by the hyperscalers. As an FAP, we have full control of our keys which secures the data, and at any point in time, the data cannot be exposed or retrieved by any of the authorities, even though whether it is government authority or federal authorities and all those things. So we have gone through a rigorous sort of validation of the hyperscalers and ensured that from a data security perspective, because in some of your workloads you might have very sensitive high net worth individuals customer data, and it's important they are secured and they do not go out of the country in any way or other. So from that validation perspective, we have carried out independent validation and confirmed that everything is completely secured. And of course, from a governance perspective, this has been presented to the various risk security governance forums, and make sure that everybody properly signs off notes and understands what we are putting on cloud and how it is secure.
Sounds almost like everybody lived happily ever after on cloud 9. Before I say that, okay, the floor is open for lunch, but before you go there, I'm going to open up the floor for questions to Sampath and Rizwan. We already have one hand going up. Oh my God, we have two hands going up and they're going to compete with each other. Who's going first? But Ram, you go first because you raised your hand first.
Thank you, Nikhil. Sampath, that was wonderful listening to you. It was very nice to hear about some of these challenges that you actually have recently overcome. And I have one question for you. What, particularly for banks who actually have a presence across multiple geographies, right? And you talked about this whole angle of it's a one-way street, especially when you do a cloud strategy, you got to keep this in context. Bear in mind, you can't reverse things too soon, and it's very complicated to do that. What are the factors that you take into consideration from a multi-geography context when you develop a cloud strategy? Because there are local regulations, there are constraints on what you cannot do. Some of your applications are hosted with multiple countries on being used. So what goes in the thought process when you actually do a cloud strategy, particularly from that context? Thanks.
Yeah, I think, thanks, Ram. Very, very good question. And of course, we have gone through this experience of us being present in more than 18 countries. Some of our applications are hosted centrally in UAE. So I think one of the key things when we look at a workload which is going to be used by other geographies, not only in UAE, we look at the nature of the business, nature of that particular application which we need to move into workload, and then look at regulations for each of the geographies that is going to be using that particular workload. I mean, just to give an example of some of the countries which we have challenges, Egypt do not allow, even if it is hosted in UAE, it has to be in on-prem, it does not allow anything to move in the cloud, right? And KSA, we have challenges because they are more and more asking us to come into data localization. And when we come to India, there are specific sort of a data which they said it has to be residing in India, not to be in UAE. So like that, what we do is basically, we look at what geographies this particular application will be used, look at the local regulations in terms of is there anything which we need to comply with according to the local regulations, and get it passed through each of the compliance officers in those local geographies to get them agree and certify that this is the sort of workload that's going to go into a public cloud in UAE, and that workload capability is going to be used by their particular country. And after we pass through all the gates and after we get confirmation from all the compliance team and security team, then we push that workload into the public cloud. As we speak now, from our experience perspective, very few business applications which we have moved into the cloud, which are being, commonly used by multi-geographies. What more workload we have moved into the cloud, which is used by multi-geographies, basically on technology related tools, for example, in terms of monitoring tools, in terms of log monitoring, or in terms of, some of the, service capabilities. These are most of them which we have moved, which is used by multi-geographies, but business applications we have migrated, which is commonly used by very few. Another international strategy that we are following around is also we are already moving some of the international locations into the cloud in their respective geographies. So it doesn't need to be a common cloud within UAE, but in their respective geographies, we have moved already 2-3 countries into their cloud in the same region itself.
Thank you, Sampath. Thank you so much. Do we have another question? Yes, we have Chetan, who has a question. As we get the mic across to Chetan.
Hi,
please.
Sampath. Chetan here. So again, you spoke about some early cloud adoption by the bank in private cloud with AWS. Now, as you know, Bahrain is one of the first countries to open up banking in cloud. And they in fact promote AWS and Azure being an approved clouds. So if you have to look at a couple of learnings, right, from a private cloud to what you're now going to, for CIOs to plan for, right? It'll be really useful to understand your perspective, some mistakes they can avoid.
I mean, as I said before, as we speak now, we are using the AWS Bahrain region. Just to say, some of our workloads are still running on AWS Bahrain region, and we'll be migrating them in the course of this year to AWS UAE. Key aspects to consider for CIOs is one is, as I said, that, you need to have probably 2 to 3 year strategy on cloud usage and how your cost is going to come up. And second is, from a technology perspective, it should be a technology which is going to evolve in future so that you move into cloud and leverage services. And third basically is that, from a data regulation and privacy perspective, it is taken care that the data which you put on the cloud is completely secured and certified by the respective security offices. That's the key aspect which needs to be taken into consideration. I will still insist that well-architected framework when you move into cloud is very, very, very important. And if you don't, from our experience, I can tell you that especially in Azure, when we moved in, the tenant which we have set up initially 3 years back for us to move into the cloud because COVID forced most of us to move into cloud in order to allow people to work remotely. And after 1 year, we have realized that the overall security framework and some of the configurations that we have set up on the Microsoft tenant is not in line with future if we want to actually scale. So we have to rebuild our tenant, completely and then migrate those into the new tenant. And it took us a time of 6 to 8 months to do it again. As I said, it's a painful process. I think well-architected framework is one of the very, very primary aspects before we accelerate the journey into the cloud.
Thank you, Sampath. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, both of you, Sampath, Rizwan. I think we are out of time for this panel. So again, thank you so much for being here, and best wishes, Sampath, for your journey that you have embarked on. And thank you again. I'm going to hand it back to Ojas.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Nikhil. Thanks, Rizwan. Thanks a lot.